Welcome to the second episode of No Slides Attached. I'm Fede Pacheco, and today we'll be talking about one of our most popular and beloved Copilots, which is Copilot for Microsoft 365. I'm here with our awesome co-host, Helene Cohen. Helene, are you a PowerPoint or an Excel fan?
Fede, that's like asking someone who's your favorite child. But if I have to choose, my brain is super into creative, so I'd probably have to lean towards PowerPoint, but still love Excel. How about you?
Well, actually, I love both too. There's nothing better than a PowerPoint presentation with incredible insights that we extracted from Excel. But Loop is actually my new favorite tool. You know, we have all the scripts and all the questions from this podcast on Loop, and it's been amazing to collaborate. And when we talk about Copilot for M365 or Microsoft 365, we're talking about bringing the power of AI or large language models, LLMs, many people call them, with your organization's data into the productivity tools that we all love and really use every day at work. So Excel, PowerPoint, and Loop, of course, but also Word, OneNote, even Outlook and Teams. There's a separate M365 chat also that combines all of the above, and we can ask integrated questions if this is implemented into your organization's premises.
Yeah, Fede, it's such a time saver. You know, I've been diving a little more deeply into it every day. I, of course, use it for, quickly catching up on meetings that I'm not able to join live, even to go back and, catch up on things that maybe I'd missed prior. And sometimes, if I have a conversation with somebody and I cannot remember what they said, I have an opportunity also to go back and ask Copilot, specifically for that information.
Do you forget what I tell you at all?
Not you, Fede, never.
Yeah, I would never need Copilot to remember all the awesome things we talk about. But jokes aside, there's like actual studies that have been made that say that people would rather have Copilot than free lunch at work, which to me is bizarre because I don't think I would trade pizza for anything, but it just shows the appreciation that people have for these tools and the value they're bringing to what they do.
Well, Fede, we'll have to ask our guests about that with lunch. But speaking of which, we have Marie Quigg with us today. And Marie is a director for the small medium business go-to-market team, and she's focused on modern work.
Welcome, Marie.
Hi, team. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, we're so grateful to have an expert in the room. But don't worry, we won't ask you what your favorite M365 tool is. We do want to ask you what your favorite Copilot prompt is because you're such an expert.
Okay, well, I will say first, I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I think with generative AI and Copilot and all the features and newness that we're introducing into the market, I could never call myself an expert because I'm learning and changing how I use Copilot in my day-to-day life every single day. So I would never want to call myself that because I think there's no way that I could keep up with generative AI and the brain and assistance that tool provides me every single day. My favorite prompt, so I'll give you one professional and one personal actually, because there is one that I use every single Sunday in my house. My favorite prompt, I actually have a vacation catch-up prompt that I love. I will share it with you to put in the show notes, but when we get back from vacation, I know I'm personally, I'm anxious, right? I don't know what went on. I don't know how many unread emails I have. And I used to sit down on Monday morning or maybe Sunday night if I was gone for what felt like a really long time. And you just start hashing through your email, right? You're trying to read all of your Teams IMs, trying to read all of my emails. And now I have a prompt that I just tell Copilot, hey, I've been out of the office for the last week, or I'll give it specific dates if I kind of took a Wednesday to a Wednesday. And I say, I've been out of the office for this period of time. Can you help me catch up on the things that I missed? Please read all of my unread Teams IMs, channels, and emails, and build me a chart of what I might have missed And then you can take it a next step that says, if there's any action items assigned to me or anything that I'm supposed to do, can you please put that in bold? So I actually have Copilot just build me a chart that says what the channel is, what the communication was, what the action is, and then what I'm supposed to do specifically if there is one. And this helps me. I can't even calculate how much time sometimes I spend catching up on email. Absolutely, maybe the first half of my Monday back. And I think it makes that last few hours of vacation, like that Sunday night, so much more peaceful and relaxing, because I just know the first thing I'm going to do tomorrow morning is pop in my vacation catch-up prompt. And I'm going to let Copilot do that work for me to help me get started on specifically what do I need to go do to catch up. So it's absolutely the vacation prompt. Like I said, I'll share it with you to put in the show notes. But I think for me, that is game changing, because not only is it like reducing sometimes my out of office anxiety when you're coming back, but also helps me get time back on my first Monday and give me that first action that I know I'm going to go do to get like back in the saddle and back on work.
As a member of the Sunday Scaries Club, which is not really a thing, but I really suffer from it. It's a thing. You're more than welcome to come to the podcast that doesn't exist about Sunday Scaries, because you could save many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say from a personal perspective, I also use Copilot. So Copilot and Bing to help me build meal plans. I have little kids. My husband and I both work from home. So there's a lot of pressure to have actually like breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the Quig household with various preferences on food. So I will stand in front of my refrigerator with my Copilot app. And I will say, build me a meal plan for 7 days that includes eggs, cheddar cheese, whatever we have left over, and can put in some specific things like on Thursday, if I know we'll probably go out to dinner, I can plug that in as well. So I think those are my two favorite prompts that help me. And I'm having this realization now real time, help me get started like for my week on Sunday. That saved me so much time. So I can sort of just enjoy the time off. So those two are invaluable to me.
I love that, Marie. I think I'm going to have to try that meal plan one. I hadn't thought about it for that. And I've heard you speak many times, so I know our guests today are going to learn so much. And speaking about prompts, and I love the specificity that you are talking about, and I know you're going to probably talk a little bit more about that, but what, as you like to call it, is effective prompt engineering?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think when we use the words engineering, right, it can sound so unapproachable. The beauty of Copilot and generative AI is that it is in natural language. So I am not a computer science person. I'm not a coder. I'm a marketer. So I am now able to use Copilot because I can talk to it in the same way that I would a human assistant or some amazing employee who works for me or with me. So when I think about how do you write an effective prompt, it really comes down to just 4 things. And even the more complicated or sophisticated of the prompt that you make, or the more basic and entry level, they all have these 4 things. So the first thing is the goal. If you think about the vacation prompt that I just shared, I'm giving Copilot the goal. I need to catch up from being out of the office. Now it understands, like, what am I trying to do? And I've also set a goal on the output where I want to chart. So I have told it exactly how I want to see all of the information that I need to catch up. So number 1 is always give it a goal. And that can be like, I'm trying to write a presentation. I have an executive business review. I need to write my annual connect, which in Microsoft is, your half yearly check-in with your manager. So give it that goal. What are you trying to do? Always provide context. So I like here to say, this is to help me understand, help me prepare, help me catch up, whatever it is. Just give a little bit of context of what you are trying to do. So your goal is that how the output that I'm trying to drive, and your context is like, for what? What do you want this for? Copilot, especially Copilot for M365, give it a source. When I use the vacation prompt, I'm telling it where to look that I know I probably had a lot of incoming communication that I need to catch up on. So look in Teams, use this Word doc, look at this PowerPoint, read these SharePoints, whatever it may be. So always give it a source. And the last thing is set expectations. And this is where I think it can get so fun. So you can set expectations of like, I want any action items assigned to me in bold, or I need it to be very professional. Or sometimes as a marketer and I'm building new things, like let's say I need a chart or a slide, or I'm trying to build a talk track for a presentation, I can say things like make it fun, make it colorful, make it layman's terms. If we're trying to discuss data security comparison between Microsoft Business Premium and Microsoft E5 Purview, right? That can get complex quickly. So if you set expectations, this is where it can start to get really fun because you're getting closer to that ultimate output that you want, and making sure that the format and the end result is what you are envisioning. So when I think about a strong prompt and effective prompt engineering, it's just the formula of 4. Give it a goal, set the context, share a source, where do you want it to look, and set expectations. And this is where you can get a little bit creative and let AI do some of the work for you to get closer to that end result. So I will just say always have the 4 in your formula.
The formula. I love that. And please don't quiz us at the end, but I promise we'll start applying it thoroughly and every time.
Yeah. I always joke that when we share a prompting session or we do a little bit of prompt training on like, how do you get started? Nobody wants to prompt in public for the first time, right? It's like they want to go to the class. They want to get the slide that has the prompt formula. They want to get the prompt guide, and then they want to go back to their desk and try it out in the privacy of their own computers. So I would never quiz you because I do think it takes a little bit of time to get comfortable with the formula. And you're like, oh, well, if I tweak it, how do I make a chart? What if I use parentheses? All sort of things that helps you go from just your basics, help me catch up on a meeting, all the way to the more advanced, like the vacation prompt.
Love it. And the next question for you is related to how we introduced this episode, right? Helene and I did our best to explain Copilot for M365 in our own terms, but you are the expert here. So tell us, how did we do and what would you add or change to the way we provide an overview?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you did a great job. And you know what? Ultimately, we fail sometimes. And I know it's as a marketer, I'm aware it's a tagline, but Copilot really is your AI assistant at work. And I think when we hone in on that, that creates this space where Copilot is approachable. Again, we can over-engineer anything. We can make things sound more complicated. We can get into all of the more like technical terms, but ultimately, like Copilot is your assistant at work, and it's going to be able to interact with you in your natural language. I would also say one of the biggest concerns, or I wouldn't even say an objection, because it's more like, I just want the confidence from you, Microsoft, before I deploy this to 20,000 people or even 2 people in a very small SMB, is, am I covered from a security and compliance standpoint? So I think part of our story with Copilot, or part of our description of Copilot when we're talking about it with customers, or even to our partners who are our customers as well, right? Like the folks listening to this are buying Copilot, their IT teams, their CIOs, CFOs are buying them Copilot in real time, in the same way that our customers are buying Copilot in real time for themselves. Everyone just wants that check, like Microsoft. Am I good when I turn this on, when I hit that toggle to deploy Copilot? So ultimately, the only thing I would add to the conversation here is some of our security and compliance checks that we have in the baseline SKUs that Copilot is a prerequisite for. So in order to have Copilot There are some requirements for your foundational productivity, whether that's Business Premium, ME3, ME5, or another one of our baseline SKUs. There is data security and compliance SKU features within each of those productivity suites that helps us protect you from data oversharing, data leakage, and non-compliant usage. So those vary depending on what SKU you have, the size of your business. But ultimately, if we are using our premium SKUs and our cloud suites, we do have that protection against kind of the biggest concerns. Ultimately, people are just worried, if I turn this on, is someone going to be able to find out how much my CEO makes? Is there going to be an HR data leak or those sort of things? And as long as we have our baseline SKUs provisioned correctly, there are built-in security and compliance checks to help you avoid kind of those nightmare scenarios that we have all created with our own human co-pilot of like, if I put my name behind buying this and I'm a huge AI supporter, am I going to also be responsible for a data leak? So that's the only piece that I would add. And we have tons of guides that we can link in the show notes, or tons of guides on Partner Center that help break down which security features protect against oversharing, leakage, and non-compliant usage. But the Microsoft baseline SKUs are ultimately there with the features in place to help you get the best out of Copilot. So I would just add that piece, because I think no matter what, with this new technology, before we hit the go button, everyone's just a little bit holding their breath that they're not responsible for something that they could deem career limiting.
I love, Marie, that you're talking about security. And we actually have a podcast coming up on our episode 4 all around security. And we're hearing from all our guests, the importance of security. So that's a fantastic call out. Fede was talking a little bit earlier on how the Work Trend Index research had said that people, prefer Copilot over free lunch. And we know Copilot's definitely, in my mind, worth more than a free lunch. But tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think now, and we were kind of talking about this before, but Microsoft aside, obviously, I'm a huge fan of the company, committed to the company, but Microsoft aside with Copilot, like I cannot live without it anymore. As a marketer, it helps me move so much faster, creating briefs, writing content, building presentations, designing talk tracks, like whatever it may be. So when I think about lunch, and also the free lunches that are available in remote work, it's a little bit different when you used to go into the office, right? And there's like a full spread. And maybe if your management's like really cool, they've brought in some adult beverages. Like that's pretty different than being somebody who works from home and gets a Uber Eats or a DoorDash or a Grubhub gift card, right? So especially when I take it down to that, like if I get a $30 Uber Eats gift card, which basically covers a burrito from Chipotle being sent to my house, versus I can, going back to the vacation prompt, save myself 4 hours of triaging email. I will take Copilot over that delivered burrito any single day. So I think it's kind of a cheeky analogy that we use, where like people would take this over free lunch, but in reality, and especially what we've learned from the Work Trend Index, is we are so overburdened post-pandemic with meetings, pings of all kinds, and sort of this omnipresent communication that's required of us, that if you told me that the tool that helps me consolidate my day and kind of recreate those boundaries that have been lost in physical work for lunch, I would say absolutely not, right? And I think Copilot's becoming, or generative AI is becoming even more important as we continue to see those pandemic highs of meetings, emails, IMs, and more of our teams become spread out all over the world, right? Like my team is from Toronto, Canada, to Seattle, Washington, to Florida, to Argentina. And that's not changing anytime soon. So I think while it's a good kind of cheeky way to justify the price. In reality, it's like $30 per user per month, and I'm getting 5 to 10 hours of my day back to do more or do things that I would never have time for. That to me is invaluable. So I always say, like, you can calculate it in lunch, and then also remember now, where do you work and what does that lunch look like? Because that really makes a difference. Like, these are not your Microsoft catered lunches of the past. Like, we're talking about, an Uber Eats delivered burrito. So
Marie, we talked a lot about why this is so great and why is it such a value proposition for partners and customers. Now let's dig into to end this conversation to also talk about what have we learned since we went generally available with Copilot for all of our partner channels, and what advice would you give our partners to really thrive while selling and deploying this for their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the one thing the trend we're noticing with all partners who are selling a lot of Copilot is those partners are using Copilot, whether that is Copilot in Bing or paid licenses of Copilot for M365. So I would encourage every partner who's listening, just try it every single day. You've learned the prompt formula, go into copilot.microsoft.com, try a couple things, learn some tips and tricks, check out the Copilot lab, and
follow
just start
Marie's principles.
Yeah, follow the prompt. Try in a Copilot lab. Just start using it. And then also, as you build your comfortability with the product and finding your ways to use it, consider a paid trial, right? We see that most customers and partners as customers start with, 10 or so licenses of Copilot for M365 to test it out, see the productivity gains, see the creativity gains, and just start to understand how Copilot, since it is very custom to every user and every organization and every team within that organization, how they use it, start to understand your own internal use cases and then consider a larger rollout. So the number one thing is partners who are having success with Copilot are using Copilot, number one. So definitely start there. I would also say, and this is not a shameless plug for the things that we have on Partner Center, but in reality, there are a ton of resources. So whether it is spending some time on the Microsoft 365 YouTube, I sound like a total fan here, but I am like, there are some amazing videos around explaining how Copilot works, the graph, semantic index, large language models, our data and security compliance features, and how those line up to keep you safe and secure with Copilot. The other thing is we actually do have a lot of super helpful snackable resources that are going to teach you how to sell, teach you how to overcome objections, teach you how to teach your own customers how to use Copilot. Again, shameless plug for the prompt formula there, because that's all they need also. And then help give you some tips and tricks on how you can explain more of the complex pieces like the graph, the semantic index, large language models, and just be able to have layman's terms conversations with your customers so that they can start considering and using Copilot in their everyday life. So I will say, and I don't think it's the most life-changing answer, but it really is, use Copilot every day and in the way that works for you, whether that's Copilot or Copilot for Microsoft 365. Spend some time on the resources. I love our YouTube. Partner Center has a lot of great opportunities, and just find your way of being able to simplify some of the more complex concepts and be able to have 100 level conversations with your customers about the things that can get complicated really quickly.
Marie, first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. I think one of the coolest things is that I think we all at Microsoft are learning right alongside our partners. So all of the things that you've talked about, I'm doing. I'm sure Fede, you're doing, similar each day. I actually look to Fede all the time. I'm like, what are you using Copilot for? Because he's always so innovative around it, right? So it's also about talking to how people are using it, right? So again, thank you so much for joining us today on our podcast, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely, team. This was awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope everybody finds their way to Copilot and their own favorite prompt. And Helene, you said it perfectly. Sharing back the prompts, share it back. I'll share my vacation prompt. I hope people share other prompts with me also.
Vacation prompt. And also, when we come up with Copilot for refrigerator, that's recorded on this podcast.
Maybe we need
today.
a button, a Copilot button in your refrigerator, and it could scan what I have in there.
You heard it here first.
There's a Silicon Valley episode on it, though. So we need to do thread lightly, but I know we can do it.
Okay, I like this. This is copyrighted. You heard it here first. Cool.
Thank you, Marie. For the second half of our episode, we have an incredible partner here to share a story about their success with Copilot for M365.
We are here today with Valorum Reply, and we have Margaret Hahn, Associate Partner for Valorum Reply's Modern Work Practice. Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit about Valorum Reply?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here to talk about Valorum Reply. At Valorum Reply, we are part of the Reply Network, which is a network of consultancies, about 175 different consultancies that all work as one. Reply is actually based in Italy, headquartered in Milan, and it's really exciting that Reply is growing and expanding beyond Europe and building up a presence in the United States. Our modern work practice here in the United States started in January of 2020. You can imagine that was a great time to start a consultancy in the United States with COVID and all of that. We went through the COVID journey and helped both our organization and other organizations to work more effectively through the lens of Microsoft. So our world is a Microsoft 365 ecosystem. We do all things Microsoft, whether that's Microsoft Copilot, Viva, SharePoint, Teams, Viva Engage, Power Apps, all of that. And we have a fantastic practice that marries both the technical practice and the people practice, and we call that the adoption change management practice.
Well, that is awesome. We are so lucky to have such a great partner like you here with us today. So let's jump in. We're going to ask you just a fun question to get started. So share with us one Copilot prompt that you cannot live without.
That's a great question. I use Copilot all day, every day to help me work smarter, not harder. And one of the things I struggle with as an associate partner leading a really big team is that I have lots of messages coming in from all over, whether that's Outlook or Teams channel posts or chat, etc. And so I really like to practice what I preach with my organization, making sure that we have a work-life balance. And so I like to turn off my messages when I get home. And so sometimes I have a lot that I've missed while I've been offline. And so the Copilot prompt I can't live without. It's a little bit of a long one, but stay with me. So I use this every day. And it starts with summarize my emails, Teams messages, and channel messages from the last workday. List action items in a dedicated column. Suggest follow-ups, if possible, in a dedicated column. And the table should look like this. The type, mail, Teams, channel. The topic, summarization, action item, follow-up. And if I've been directly mentioned, make the font of the topic bold.
Wow, that is so awesome. I love how precise and prescriptive that is. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And hopefully our listeners are able to take that away and make that part of their day as well. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Fede.
Yeah, I'm so glad we recorded this because I'm going to use that again. I think Marie Quigg from our first half of our episode will be very proud that you're following all of our principles, right? So Margaret, our topic today, you're an expert on Copilot for M365 and modern work as a whole. As a leader in this space, can you share a bit about your success so far?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been in the world of Copilot really since its inception, since the beginning, and we've helped organizations large and small embrace Copilot and bring it into their everyday walks of life. Early on, when Copilot was released to, really just major organizations in the early access pilot program, we got involved with some really large companies thinking about how do they use Copilot. One example I'm thinking of is in the telecommunications industry, really large organization, and they were struggling a little bit in their EAP, in their early access pilot program, figuring out how do we get people excited, how do we get people to use Copilot, and how do we realize the value of the investment. And so because we had an existing relationship with this organization, they actually reached out to us and said, you are the partner we need. And so we came in and did some early discovery to understand how they were using Copilot without any help. And then we created a rapid adoption change management program for them. When it comes to Copilot, the technology itself, yes, sure, it's complicated. There's lots of things happening in the back end, but where you really unleash the power is through the people. And so through this campaign, we focused on the message of what will you unleash with Copilot? And we focused our campaign on demonstrating to people the art of the possible and how they can bring Copilot into their everyday walks of life at work. And so we did a huge design campaign, a huge rollout, various trainings focused on unlocking the possible with Copilot. And we essentially did 2 rounds of a campaign. And when I say campaign, you can think of it as kind of like an internal advertising marketing campaign that also trains people and empowers them with knowledge. So we did this unleashing productivity with Copilot campaign. And then we did a second round focused on very specific business cases. And so we sat with the organization, we helped identify hyper-specific business cases tailored to them. And then we ran a second campaign really more focused on personas and tying the unleashing of the possible into their everyday lives. Now, every organization is different. So when we go into various organizations, we always learn from them, listen to them, and then craft a campaign and training that's aligned to exactly what their needs are.
Wow, I love that you've mentioned the human aspect and also how you leverage the existing relationship that you had with this organization and leverage that to really, like, you already empathize and understood what their needs were. And that's something that came before Copilot was around. And at the same time, my next question is about how Copilot fit your existing practice. Besides what you already mentioned about relationships, tell us more.
Yeah, when we go into an organization, maybe it's a brand new relationship. So we have to really understand and get to know the organization before we can tell them how to roll out Copilot or any other tool. There are basic principles that we use, whether that's an overall roadmap or communications or engagement or governance tactics. But when we first get started, it's really important to build that relationship. Now, we always like to leverage the latest and greatest tools, especially Copilot. And so one of the things that we've added in directly into our new Copilot practice is leveraging Copilot as much as possible. So think about discovery sessions where we might be using Microsoft Whiteboard to gather information. We're gathering a lot of information about how they work, their culture, etc. Now, we can sit and look at the whiteboard and analyze it ourselves, but in order to speed up the process so we can more quickly support our customers, we leverage Copilot and Whiteboard to help us analyze the data that we've collected. From there, we can take all that information, that organization, then ask Copilot some questions. What did we miss? What questions didn't we ask? And put that into, maybe we put that into a Microsoft Loop page where we can all collaborate and build out content from there. Or maybe we put it into a Word document. And then we can ask Copilot to build out an agenda or build out follow-up questions. And again, we can do all of this on our own, but it would take a little bit longer of a time. And because we are experts in the space, we can fact check and keep Copilot honest. So in case it does hallucinate a little bit, which is rare, we also are using our skills and our experience to validate what Copilot is pushing out. And so when we're using Copilot in our adoption change management practice, we're doing it to help us speed up some of those tasks that might take us longer, but we could do on our own if we needed to.
What I hear is not only have you injected Copilot into your practice, similar to how we have injected Copilot into our M365 suite, but also you're really leading with example. So you must be being really successful with this. Can you tell us more about your success and what have you seen so far in this past, year and a half?
Yeah, absolutely. When we think about success and Copilot, I think about it in two different ways. I think about it in our internal adoption and usage at Reply and the modern work team at Reply, and then the adoption and usage and effectiveness that we're enabling with our customers. At Reply, folks who have a Copilot license are using it. We're finding that they're using it daily. One of the most common places people are using Copilot is in Teams, because that's where we do all of our work. Now, when it comes to success with our customers, it's a little bit more nuanced because we might not always have access to their Viva Insights Copilot dashboard, which is where you get a lot of information around adoption. But what we do is we coach our customers on how to read that dashboard, and then we help them identify how to pivot our next phases in the approaches on what we're seeing in the adoption dashboard. Now, with one of our customers, again, our large telecommunications example, we had really great attendance in our training sessions. So if we were sending out trainings to 500 people, on average, we were getting between 75 and 95% attendance rate, which is great. And then coming out of those sessions, their satisfaction was between 90 and 100%. So the training sessions were great. They were being attended. And then that helped us build trust with the people in this engagement campaign to then also want to take our surveys. Now, when it comes to Copilot, there's definitely quantitative data that you can see as to how much people are using Copilot. But then there's also a qualitative piece, meaning how am I feeling about Copilot and how much time am I saving that I'm thinking through that. So we continue to do focus groups and use Microsoft Forms and Viva Pulse, where organizations have that, to push out checkpoints and get a pulse on how people are feeling. And so with another organization, we found that folks were saving between 2 and 3 hours a week after a first couple of rounds of training. And then that number started to increase, that we were looking at about an hour a day of savings. Which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting. And the fact that you were able to capitalize on that momentum, you see everybody wants to learn it, but then you actually translate that into saving time and then even saving more time as time progresses. People really adopt the tool and make it part of their everyday. I think Helene has one more question for you.
I do, and thank you for sharing. So you are well on your way with your Copilot journey. If you are working with other partners or peers, what is your top advice for how they can make Copilot for M365 part of their offerings?
Copilot is a fantastic tool. It has grown over since it's been released. And when thinking about bringing Copilot into your practice, you want to make sure that you're using and thinking about it through the lens of not only the technology around the readiness, but also through the lens of the people. At the end of the day, it's the people who are really using Copilot, and we need to make sure that we are presenting it in a way that they're excited about it, they want to change, and what I've found in my Copilot travels is it's organizations are not looking to take away jobs, take away people. They're really looking to empower people and unleash productivity and unleash people's creativity through Copilot. So my advice would be think about it through the lens of empowerment and people instead of reducing the number of people who ultimately would be using Copilot.
I think that's very well said. There is that fear of the reduction, right? Whereas I love the mindset of really how it can empower. So thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed having you as a guest, and we look forward to seeing all of your continued success.
Stay tuned for our next episode. We're going to be talking about Copilot for Sales and Copilot for Service.
And thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk about our Valorum Modern Work practice here at Reply. And if anybody needs anything, hit me up. You can find me on LinkedIn or at reply.com.
We hope today's conversations have ignited fresh perspectives and inspired you to take new opportunities in this changing landscape of AI.
Stay tuned for more insights and stories on No Slides Attached. Be sure to listen in and follow us at noslidesAttached.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.